Minister Mohammed Al-Arbi Wuld Khalifa states that the new constitution will crown the president's political reforms initiated since 2011. Plus, Saudi Arabian women voted for the first time on Saturday in local council elections and also stood as candidates. And later on in our news program, we shed light on success stories of Algerians living in Silicon Valley in the United States. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us. First, Mohammed Al-Arbi Wuld Khalifa, the chairman of the National People's Assembly, stated in an interview with the Algerian press agency that the new constitution will crown the president's political reforms initiated since 2011 and which would grant the opposition a more efficient role. And in the same interview, he criticized all those questioning the legitimacy of the state's institution and by far President of the Republic. Karim Fastakri for more details.
In an interview with the Algerian press agency, the chairman of the National People's Assembly, Mohammed Al-Arbi Wuld Khalifa, said the new constitution will be the jewel of the crown of the president's political reforms initiated since 2011 and which would grant the opposition a more efficient role. The message of the President of the Republic on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the 1st of November 1954 revolution provided for a more efficient role for the opposition in favor of the new constitution. The chairman of the lower house of parliament reminded that the commitments of the President of the Republic in 2011 were honored in recent years, stating, for example, that women make up a third of the members of the parliament. As for the appropriate date to reveal the new constitution, Wuld Khalifa insisted that it was the President's prerogative and none could question that. The head of the state is the president of all Algerians. He assumes all the responsibilities of the state. He receives all the internal and external data and knows better than anyone the right moment to present the project of the constitutional revision. Commenting on recent media outlets and heated exchanges between political parties and personalities, Mr. Wuld Khalifa stressed that political speech must rise up to the greatness of Algeria, and he openly invited the people to follow the FLN's program, describing it the wisest seeing the current situation of the country. We shared our good faith and intention from the very beginning, but statements of some opposition figures sometimes lead us to doubt the authors. We need to be aware that hostile statements against the state serve neither the political class's interests nor those of Algeria. A good political discourse is the one that is in line with the interest of the country, like the one the FLN party holds. The scaremongering that does not provide alternatives is profane and vain. Patriotism sentiment shared by all Algerians is supposed to serve the interest of Algeria and not that of the minorities. Mr. Wuld Khalifa criticized those who questioned the legitimacy of the state institutions, recalling that the president was elected by the majority and no one can question his legitimacy and hence his institutions. He concluded that anyone seeing some kind of error in the Financial Law 2016, which stirred a bit of controversy in the political scene, could wait until next elections to correct it.
Almost 10,000 teachers seem resolute to hold a 3-day strike at all universities of Algiers starting from tomorrow Sunday. Education Higher Council teachers at universities warn of more tensions if the ministry refuses teachers' requests. Siam Sado.
More than 10,000 teachers seem determined to clutch a 3-day strike at all universities of Algiers, starting from tomorrow Sunday. The Higher Council, as well as higher education teachers and scientific researchers, threaten of further escalation if the ministry denies the requested claims. Trade union representative Abdelmalik Rahmani declared to Zay News Channel that it's been already 5 years that their requests have been uncovered and that the last meeting with Minister of Higher Education has been held last December the 15th. But since that date, up to today, no replies have been taken into consideration. The letter stated that Algeria is seriously affected by the economic crisis nowadays. For his part, the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, Tahar Hajjar, responded to the strikers, affirming that behind any strike there must be a pragmatic reason. The objective of this strike carries clever other pragmatic goals. This trade union representative started claiming after leaving the ministry. Tensions seem to rise more and more in the education arena. The Education Union is not willing to give up any strike if the ministry does not support the teachers. At the end, the students suffer the consequences, hence the society will come upon a real crisis.
400,000 cases of hepatitis in Algeria were recorded, and laboratories work to discover a new treatment for hepatitis called Sophos. Tests confirmed the effectiveness of this treatment by 95% and will be available to patients in hospital in December at the expense of the government. Hence Minaras.
At last, Algerian patients infected by hepatitis C can from now on benefit from an all-Algerian treatment. Experts estimate the new medicine's healing percentage by 90%, and that costs less.
Out of 40 million Algerians, there might be 400,000 cases, though it's only hypothetical. Before healing percentage was about 50%. Now it goes up to 90%. I hope all hospitals would provide this treatment. There are definitely plans underway with the ministry.
Sophos, 500 milligrams, described by specialists as the miraculous anti-hepatitis C virus medicine, is a local product produced by the National Laboratory Beaker and is currently available at hospitals' central pharmacies.
We're over proud to have developed this treatment in Algeria by no else than Algerians. Though for now this product is limited and not easily accessible, nevertheless, we're really proud.
From its part, the National Association of Hepatitis C Patients called for the authorities concerned to ensure the medicine's availability in private pharmacies, as well as listing it within the list of socially secured medicines.
This disease is called the silent disease. It can only be prevented through an early diagnosis. We call for it to be available in private pharmacies to spare the patient the trouble of commutation.
Experts are expecting that this brand new revolutionary product will allow the possibility to put a national strategy to eliminate this dreadful disease for good.
Moving on to world news, leaders at a major climate change conference in Paris released what they called the final draft of an agreement to address global warming today, Saturday, after an all-night negotiating session. Siam Sadou.
The global agreement on the climate and sustainable project was presented today, Saturday, in Paris by the president of the conference, Laurent Fabius, who called the 195 countries to adopt a historic agreement. French President François Hollande, accompanied by Secretary General of the United Nations Ban Ki-moon and a French Foreign Affairs Minister Laurent Fabius, declared that conditions were never better for a strong and ambitious agreement. The draft text has been translated to the 6 official languages, but the final agreement has not been signed yet because southern countries deny the signature and blame industrialized countries as first emitters of greenhouse gas effects on Earth.
Humanity takes control of its destiny. What we considered impossible became possible, and that's tremendously encouraging. Over both medium and long terms, the agreement seems to have officially recorded some really ambitious options. Now we do not have insurance for 2020, so we have to schedule things for the best of the Earth climate to guarantee efficient results by the year 2020.
Several analysts say that this is not a finished deal and that will only be finally adopted if they keep charging developing countries, which themselves suffer from global warming effects. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon urged all countries to finish the job, adopting a pact against global warming, exacerbating heat waves, droughts and floods.
Twin explosions in a government-controlled neighborhood of Syria's Homs city killed at least 16 people and wounded scores more today, Saturday. The blasts come days after the government extended its control of western city with the implementation of a truce deal in Wa'ar, the last insurgent-held area of Homs. The second large blast, originally suspected to have been a bomb, appeared to have come from an exploding gas canister and wounded people who had to come to tend two victims of the first explosion in the densely populated neighborhood. At least 34 bodies have been found in Burundi's capital after the worst night of violence in recent times. Most of the bodies found on the streets of Bujumbura appear to be young men killed by gunfire, some with their hands tied behind their backs. The bodies were found a day after attacks on military sites. Residents accuse police of taking revenge. Unrest has blighted Burundi since an attempt coup in May and protests over the president's continued rule. The attempt to overthrow President Pierre Nkurunziza followed his decision to seek a third term in office, which he won in a disputed election in July. The violence has raised fears of a return to worsening ethnic tension between Hutus and Tutsis. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan declared yesterday Friday he would not bow to Iraqi demands to withdraw Turkish troops from a camp close to the IS-held city of Mosul, and Baghdad said it would ask the UN Security Council to order them to leave. A row over the deployment has soured relations between Ankara and Baghdad, which denies having agreed to it. Ankara says the troops were sent as part of an international mission to train and equip Iraqi forces to fight IS. The latest comments indicated continuing tensions despite the Turkish Prime Minister's office saying agreement was reached in talks with the Iraqi to deepen security cooperation and recognize military personnel at the Bashiqa camp. Saudi Arabian women voted for the first time on Saturday in local council elections and also stood as candidates, a step hailed by some activists in the Islamic Patriarchy as a historic change, but by others as mere symbolic. The election, which follows men-only polls in 2005 and 2011, is 4/3 of seats on councils that previously had only advisory powers, but will now have a limited decision-making role in local government. This incremental expansion of voting rights has spurred some Saudis to hope the Al Saudi ruling family, which opponents the national government, will eventually carry out further reforms to open up the political system. Saudi Arabia is the only country in which women cannot drive, and a woman's male guardian, usually a father, husband, brother, or son, can stop her traveling overseas, marrying, working, studying, or having some forms of elective surgery. We're back to Algeria now. The national football team, who secured the ticket for the Olympics Games in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, 36 years after their last participation in the Moscow Olympics, will be playing this evening in about an hour for a second goal to win the trophy against Nigeria, the opponent for the day. Karim Fazakri.
Securing a ticket to Rio de Janeiro's Olympic Games next summer? Check. Winning the ongoing African Cup of Nations Under-23? That's what we're gonna find out in about an hour in the final match gathering the Desert Foxes of Algeria and the Black Eagles of Nigeria today. Chairman's Cubs, who are in upward phase since the first match against Egypt, are determined to achieve victory against a good team that eliminated the host country, Senegal, in the semi-finals. On their turn, Algeria's triumph over South Africa in the semi-final has already boosted the team's confidence to complete their perfect run in the tournament. In addition, Algeria had already met Nigeria in the group stage and played a goalless draw, the thing which gives them much hope as well. Nevertheless, the Algerian team had trained hard before this decisive encounter, and they are now ready to fight fiercely to clinch their triumph. The encounter today is expected to be extraordinary and pretty difficult for both teams, as the national trainer Sherman said. It's worth mentioning that this will be the third time both teams clash in this kind of tournament since the inaugural competition in Morocco in 2011, which was won by Gabon.
Moving on now to one of the touristic potentials of Algeria, where the province of Buira is replete with stunning natural resources that can make of this province a leader in the field of hiking tourism. Nevertheless, it needs more facilities improvement. Hints Minaras.
There is no denial our country is well known for its mesmerizing natural resources, enough to qualify it to be amongst the most sought-after touristic destinations. Up in the heights of Buira province, Tikishda region perfectly reflects the true capacities the country holds in terms of hiking tourism. The availability of quality services and hotels increased the turnout of visitors.
We witnessed a heavy flow of tourists in the province of Buira, particularly here in touristic region of Tikjda. Our hotels comprise 500 beds approximately. Yearly, we register around 45,000 visitors, and in Tikjda especially, there are more than 50,000 visitors. We try our best to diversify our touristic services.
Unlike the infrastructures and touristic facilities, the province of Buira neglected the development of human resources regarding hotel business. The province is unfortunately still lacking hotel training schools.
We're doing an awareness campaign for the youth benefit to raise the importance of this sector and its income. Future employees must be aware that this sector is crucial for the country's economic growth.
In contrast to the Sahrawi and coastal tourism, hiking tourism in Algeria is still up to date pending authorities concerned, proper care and support.
And finally, to wrap up our news bulletin, we shed light on Algerian geniuses in the technological hub of the United States, the Silicon Valley, where the American dream is best represented. The Algeria diaspora in the United States is arguably one of the best in the world, and they have now surpassed their Chinese and Indian counterparts who once dominated the Silicon Valley. Lamia Ashush met with some of them and brought this report.
The most influential leaders of the Silicon Valley are Americans of Algerian origin. This might be hard to believe for many, but it is actually a reality. At the heart of the American technological hub, the Silicon Valley, Algerian diaspora in the US is arguably one of the best in the world. With hundreds of patents registered to his name, electronic researcher Belgasem Habba is today classified amongst the 100 most productive inventors in the United States.
Anyone can achieve what I have achieved. I'm like any other Algerian that comes from a small village and everything worked out well. We will achieve a reverse technology. We have to face up to our problems. It hasn't been easy. We have to create a research climate.
Just like Belgasem Habba, the Silicon Valley is home to many other Algerian success stories in the United States.
I've been in the U.S. for over 35 years. I've been in the U.S. Studying in the U.S. initially, going to college here in the U.S., and then I ended up going to graduate school and graduating as an engineer. I started a company in 1993 called Super Microcomputer that specializes in information technology equipment for enterprise and for government projects. Today, the company started in 1993 with 4 people, and today, 22 years later, the company has 2,500 people and has a revenue of $2.5 billion a year.
I'm a graduate of École Polytechnique Del Harrach, and right after finishing my engineering diploma, I came straight to the U.S. to pursue my grad school. And I received a PhD in electrical engineering from Stanford University. Currently, I'm a founder and a CEO of a company which is funded by top-notch VCs in the Bay Area and also by Stanford University, and also still affiliated with the University of Stanford, doing some of the commitments that I've been doing over the last 7-8 years.
So I came here, I did my schooling in University of Washington, then I did my master's degree. I went back to, then I started working for Intel in 1981. I stayed with Intel for 25 years, doing chip design, technology de pointe. I have 6 patents with them. My son at that time, he was Yanni, he was 11 years old. We created a board game called the Zingamino, which is a mixture of a domino and a board game. We licensed the game to an American company that's still selling it all over the US, Canada, and Mexico.
Algerians are wondering why their country does not copy China and India and lure their elite back home. It is very complex to set up a program with Algerian diaspora, since the Algerian government does not seem to be willing to pay the price for these people's knowledge and technological skills.
The end of our English news edition. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.